One of the toughest parts as a lead pastor is finding where is God's Spirit guiding us as a church? What is the direction that He is asking us to go in? And I never want it to be as though I'm the one who can only sense the Spirit where God wants the church to go or any of that, but collectively, as a church, the Holy Spirit will work and guide us of where we are going, the health of the church as a body, and what God wants to teach us in this new season. And in this season, usually around the summertime, churches open up new series that are, back to the movies, or a series about something fun, or even something that's a little bit more, like if you're more of an expository teacher, usually they'll go through one of the more known books that are a little more common, like Galatians or something like that. That's a little bit more fun to kind of teach out of, or Corinthians, it's a little more like hard-hitting and stuff. And while that's normally the sense of where we'd be going, there's been a sense that me and the leadership team have been getting inside of the church that there's a different direction that we need to pause a little bit on and explore of what is God teaching us and what does God want us to understand about a theme of lament. Now, lament may be something new. You've heard about the theme of lament before, but it's not something that we as Westerners have ever really explored or studied, really. It's pretty foreign for most of us. And if I can be honest and very real with you guys, the only reason why I myself actually began to study through lament was because of a season of lament and several different seasons that I've had to go through myself. But the most recent one actually came about as a lament for our city. See, there was a very odd thing that came about a couple weeks ago, and I want you guys to understand that by no means am I a heavy charismatic or anything like that on that end, but about 6 months ago, some very unique things were being told to us from several different people that many would put in the subject of prophecy, okay? And whenever someone talks to you about prophecy, what you want to do is really explore what does the Bible have to say, what does God want you to do about this subject, and then would you see what the prophets did? That's really what they ended up doing, was they seeked God, what does God, and then what is our action that we are to do? And this prophecy, these things that kept on coming up were very dark for the city and very hard for the city itself. So we as a leadership team prayed, and there was only a select few of us that were learning about this, and we didn't want to take anything it's still prophecy. We don't know what God is going to be doing. And so we took some time and we prayed and meditated on what this was going to be. And it seemed to have passed. But in that season, we studied about this theme of lament and sorrow. And it was very eye-opening for me because I saw a way that God began to work in our pain. And what lament becomes is that lament becomes a prayer of pain that leads to total trust. Inside our church, we have loved ones that are dying, ones that we were very close to. We have major expectation gaps of the way we thought maybe our marriage was going to go or the way that we thought raising our kids was going to be, and there's a major gap. There's things that we've been taught and have believed for years that if we follow this formula, then this would happen. But that doesn't seem to be lining up, whether that be with our jobs or the way that we raise our children, the loss of dreams. There's been this infatuation in the Christian life for some of us that has almost died, and life now seems cruel. But the answer that most of us come to whenever we go through suffering, whenever we go through hardship, whenever we go through trials or anything that is difficult, is we chalk it up and say, it is what it is. It's just what happens. Life is cruel. We just have to get over it. And the problem with that is that allows no process for actual healing of the soul. And what God may be trying to work with you directly in that. I myself have gone through, and as I continue to live, more and more journey of suffering and pain. When I first became a youth pastor, I remember driving to church, and a car was rolled over, and I didn't know that, but one of my teens was actually in that and died there. And at 18, that was a really hard thing that I was like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to comfort. I don't know how to handle one of my teens that I've been caring for, that I just wrestled down a flight of stairs, has died. There were injustices that have been done. Going through personally of church abuse, where a pastor pursued after us financially and threatened us, turned the whole community we were part of against us with false lies and expectations that they've set before to turn the story around against us. And even more recently, April, the reason why you guys don't see me preach much in April is because April is a very tough season for me. Because that is a season where, just 3 years ago, I had a widowmaker heart attack. And that the doctors were very shocked about that, had no explanation. And I remember saying to my wife, I love you, goodbye, not thinking that I was going to make it. And it's those seasons of pain that every April comes around. And it's these seasons of pain that all of us have been going through that are different things of why do the innocent die? Why are the innocent suffering? Why does a child suffer? Why does someone who's doing good, someone who is loving, go through all these hardships, and yet those who are wicked and are cheating the system are actually doing perfectly fine? And it seems like they're getting away with everything. The injustice, the use of people for personal gains. And we ask ourselves usually two questions in pain. We ask God, where are you? And then God, why aren't you doing anything? God, where are you? And God, why aren't you doing anything in this situation? We know that God is around us always, that he is here. But God, where are you in this? How can you be anywhere in this situation? And yet also, God, you are all powerful. You can do anything. Why aren't you doing something? Why aren't you acting on this? We see life and we say it shouldn't be this way. And we know that God is able to do more. And the verses that are often quoted and giving answers to this are Romans 8:28, that we know that God works all things for the good of those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. But that answer is very flat in that moment. It's empty. Because when you go through something hard and terrible, and God doesn't take you out of it, and God doesn't heal what you expected to be healed, and God doesn't intervene in something that you know he could easily intervene with, that he can change someone's heart, that he can change a situation, and he doesn't, and the situation goes from bad to worse. Well, God, how are you working this out for the good? Because this does not seem like good. We want to ask the question, why? Why is this happening? But it's important that we understand that that is not the question that we should be asking. Even though it's the question that we want to ask, that is not the question that we should be asking, because the answer is not generally going to help us in that moment. God says, my ways are not my ways, nor are my thoughts your thoughts. When we try to get the answer of why, that keeps us in that moment of what we're wrestling with. We as a team, as a core team, went through some crisis training a little while ago on how to help someone in crisis as they were going through crisis. And the question that everyone that asks when they go through a crisis is why? Why did that happen? Why is this happening right now? But the question that we need to be asking is, well, what are we going to do next? How are we going to process the next steps? To start thinking forward motions. God knows that these are the questions of our hearts. God knows that we need to get moving forward. But he's given us a language to try and answer and try to find peace in these dark times. The language of lament. Lament in its literal term means to howl or to cry passionately with expression of grief. However, the pattern that we see in the Bible, that lament is more than talking or having a sorrow or sadness. It's a stage, or even the stages of grief. Lament is a prayer of pain that leads to trust. When we read through the Bible and we hear these stories, or we think through how Paul can say that in all things he finds Christ, and we read through Philippians chapter 3, and he talks about the strength that he can find in God. Lament is that language that can lead us through pain. Lament isn't the opposite of praise. It is the path to praise when we're going through brokenness or disappointment. The path from heartbreak to hope. And again, this is very uncomfortable for Westerners because we don't let ourselves sit in pain. Even this message itself, message itself is very hard for some of us to kind of sit through. Not just because I'm coughing into the mic, but the idea of sitting in pain and in sorrow is not comfortable for us. As Westerners, we don't deal with that. When someone asks you how you're doing, you say fine. And for many of us, if we've ever asked someone how they're doing, and then all of a sudden they start expressing how they're doing, you're like, no, wait, you're not supposed to do that right now. You're supposed to say fine, and we go our ways. I wasn't prepared to talk to you for another 5 minutes. And we don't know how to handle when someone is actually going through something difficult. Even our worship songs and the way that we as Westerners do worship, it's rarely done in a minor key. Most songs and their lyrics in our worship are about pulling up your bootstraps and just praising God no matter what, but not acknowledging and sitting in the pain. And when we look at Scripture, over 1/3 of the Psalms are lament. They're sung in this key of talking about waiting and sorrow and anger and disappointment and frustration and questioning. Many of the books of the prophets go through this and express this theme of lament. We have a whole book, Lamentations, that is all lament. And so one of the books that we are going to study through, Habakkuk, is this theme of lament that we see. Because as Christians, even if you aren't going through something right now, you will. You will go through something hard. There will be a wall in your life that will keep you, that will have you questioning everything. And you can have the typical Westerner response to ignore it, to brush over it, and not deal with it. Or you can sit and learn the language and the prayer, the healing prayer that God has given us of lament. Lament has just a few steps of what it usually will look like. And you can see this in the Psalms, and we'll see this in Habakkuk and how it's laid out. But there's an address to God, a complaint to God, a vow of trust, and then a vow to praise. And when we see the laments, this is what they go through. In Habakkuk, each section that we're going to break down goes through this a little bit. And we're going to break down each one of those sections to sit and to meditate. And for some of us in these table talks, it's going to be very uncomfortable because some people will be going through some hard things. And you may be sitting back and like, life is great. But it's for you to sit and have empathy with other people. Because lament is sitting with each other in this. There were several psalms that were written for the community that not every person was going through, but as a community, they were seeking healing. As a community, they were seeking how to bless each other, how to walk through this together. Now, Habakkuk is different than most of the other prophets. Usually when you think of a book of prophet, they're hearing from God, and then they go to the people and express to the people what God is saying, and then there's some wrath, there's some judgment, and those type of things. And we don't see that in this here. With the 12 minor prophets, we see something a little bit different, where it's a very personal prayer of lament that Habakkuk has. Now, it's important when you read the minor prophets, they were not meant to be read individually. They were meant to be read all together. So, understanding and reading the other things that were going on, reading Joel, reading Nahum, the guy right before it, all right? Reading these books of prophets together, and you'll see the story that God is unraveling together in this, and why Habakkuk has this gut-wrenching pain that he is going through and this shock of what he is exploring. It was written during the last years of Judea, and his name literally means to wrestle and to embrace. And we'll give a quick outline of the book of Habakkuk real quick here. In chapter 1, you can underline in verse 1, "O Lord, how long shall I cry out for help, and you will not hear, or cry to you violence, and you will not save?" The first part of a lament, again, is to make an address to God. And in this, the address to God is a complaint, an ask of God, where are you? Where are you in this season? Because it doesn't seem like you're answering anything right now. And so he's questioning God's methods and his timing. And God gives him an answer. And he doesn't like the answer. In verse 5, it says, "Look among the nations and see, wonder and be astounded, for I am doing a work in your days that you would not believe if I told you. For behold, I am raising up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation, who march through the breadth of the earth and seize dwelling not of their own." The Chaldeans were the Babylonians. And as we go through, we'll talk about the significance of what that means. And if anyone's familiar with like the Bible history and who the Babylonians were, this was a pretty significant thing to be announced. And so Habakkuk cries out, "God, why aren't you doing anything?" And he says, "Oh, I'm going to be doing something. The Babylonians are going to come, and they're going to wipe out your people." And so Habakkuk complains again. He says, "You who are pure of eyes, more pure than to see evil and cannot look at wrong, why do you idly look at traitors and remain silent when the wicked swallow up the man more righteous than he?" And he continues on into this complaint, into chapter 2, where Habakkuk describes himself as a guard at his post watchtower, saying, "God, I'm waiting for your response." In chapter 2, it says, "I will take my stand at the watchpost station, myself in the tower, and look to see what he will say to me, and what I will answer concerning my complaint." And so there's a pause. He he complains, and he pauses to hear God's voice. God, what is your word? And then God does respond. And he tells Habakkuk to write down the vision. In verse 3, for still the vision awaits its appointed time. It's hastening at the end. I will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. I will surely come. I will not delay. And so Habakkuk is told to write down this vision, and that at an appointed time, God will bring judgment against the Babylonians. But not just the Babylonians. Like what Joel and the other prophets talk about, Habakkuk uses this cosmic language and the illustration of what the Babylonians will represent. That every nation is confronted by this practice of evil, this cycle that is shared among the nations. And Babylonian is this symbol of evil and of evil nations. And their violence raises up the question that whether God will hold them account instead of reigning divine justice in heaven. And he uses other nations as an instrument for that purpose. And so that leads to the hopeful conclusion in Habakkuk in chapter 3. And he uses specific language reminiscing about God's faithfulness in the past, of Pharaoh in the Exodus, of David. In verse 8 of chapter 3, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will take joy in God of my salvation, the God, the Lord of my strength. He makes my feet like the deer's, that he makes me tread on my high places. And so there's the vow of trust, which then leads to the vow of praise. And this is the pattern of lament that we see as the pattern that was walked through David's life, through Elijah, through Isaiah, Jeremiah. Jesus himself even quotes from laments. We may not understand why and what we're going through in our pain and our suffering, but this helps us to be able to walk through the pain into a place of trust. Because if you've ever been going through that pain, it's God, I want to believe. I want to believe you're going to do something good. But I don't know how. Help my unbelief in this moment. And us learning how to lament and how to speak this language helps us walk through this pain. That when your life and that pain and that wall comes up that you must go through, you can't go around it, you can't go under it, you can't retreat from it. The only way is to go through this pain. You can find a way to praise God in that moment. And it's okay for this season that we'll be walking through. Because if we don't learn how to address and work through this pain, in the end, we are refusing to trust God. When we refuse to acknowledge and treat our pain, we are refusing to trust God himself. After all, that's what James 1:2-4 talks about. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. You know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and steadfastness must have its full effect that you may be perfect and complete, not lacking in anything. And again, this is used as a formula of why we go through that pain, but that is not what this is expressing here. We first must see that joy is meant first. And joy is not the same as happiness. It is something very different. It's a deep mercy of grace that you live with both yourself and for others. That then he goes into the steadfastness, this durability of your faith. Ignoring the wall, ignoring the pain and letting God use and work through that, and you going through that is the durability of the faith. You know, one of my disciples, every Tuesday, or maybe not every Tuesday, but pretty frequently, he likes to ask some of the most dark questions to me about like, let's say your whole house burns down and all of your dogs are in it. Would you still praise God? And I'm like, this is so dark, man. Like, jeez. And each time, I think you guys know which one it is, but it's that durability that God understands that as we learn how to lament and work through our pain, that we produce a durability. Because if we went through the most drastic things right away, it would be tough on your faith. But as seasons come on, as seasons go, God builds up and you see that God is still with you in it, even when you don't feel like it, even when you don't feel like God is there, even when you're asking, where is he? God's right there with you. Not that you will be perfect in your faith, but Christ's completion will continue to work in you. And again, this is what Paul's message in Philippians chapter 3 is. He worked through of what that completion looks like. Because we are to wrestle and to embrace. We can wrestle with God and be embraced by him. My daughter, when she was, 3, fell off the bleachers, Lillian, and like split her lip pretty wide, okay? It's one of the things you're looking at as a parent of like, will super glue work or do I gotta go get a stitch, right? And so we didn't do the super glue. We did go to the emergency room and, they're looking at it, they're like, she's gonna need a stitch, right? And they're like, here's the thing. It's gonna be more painful if we give her a shot to numb it. And so you are going to have to hold her, all right? And if you've ever had to do that, like, that is a challenging thing, okay? A little squirming 3-year-old that is like looking at you of like, why are you doing this? As you hold and embrace your child, all right? And that doctor went in there, put the stitch through, right? And all I could do was just hold and like wrestle and embrace her at the same time. And as we're going through trials, as we're going through hardships, that is what is happening with us. We are wrestling with God. God, why am I going through this? God, why is this hardship happening? God, why hardship happening? Why? Take it however you want. Either one's fine. And so we wrestle, but we know that God has embraced us as well. That God is embracing us in that moment. He's not gone. He's not far. And so learning the language of lament for us to understand what God is doing as he embracing you. Because God's wrath is not for his children. If there's one thing, whatever you're going through, whatever hardship you're going through, no matter what you have done, God's grace is for you. You are his child, and therefore his wrath is not for you. His wrath is never for his children. And you're like, well, what does that mean? Well, that gives you comfort, knowing that what you're going through is not God saying, get out of here. Look at what you've done. It is him embracing you still in that moment, no matter what you're having to go through. Whether it's outward circumstances, whether it's things you've brought on yourself as well, but God is still embracing you in that moment. He is still with you in that moment. Let's pray. God, I pray as we just explore something that is so foreign to us and so uncomfortable with us, God, I pray that we would be open. I pray that we'd be vulnerable and talking through these things with what we're comfortable with. God, would we sit with other people And maybe we're not comfortable sharing with it at the tables and we're having these discussions, but instead that we would be comfortable to learn and to meditate and to take this back into what we are going through, whatever hardship it is, whatever trial it is, and to wrestle and embrace this season. To learn this language that you've given to us, to go through pain into praise, so that we can find you in this, so that we can go through this with you in these seasons, God. And so, Lord, we pray this in your name. Amen.